Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. My name is Dan.
My name is Jack. Let's just leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. Hey everyone, how's it going? We're here for another week with the Wee Podcast.
Oh.
Doing it like an old soul DJ.
Oh, that's what that was.
Reason. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Hey, we got a great episode for you today. We're going to be watching Season 16's Goo Goo Gai Pan.
You keep
almost said
saying
Goo Goo Gai Pan again.
Goo Goo Gai Pan.
Goo Goo Gai Pan. All we know about it is that it is the Simpsons go to China, and it was requested by one of our listeners, but we have lost who it was.
It was one of our earlier suggestions. So.
If you're like, they're doing my episode, let us know, and we'll
know.
shoehorn you in somehow.
I've seen this one, so I do know a little bit more about it. I know that.
Oh, you have seen this one?
Yeah,
I was just about to ask you.
Should I spoil it? Should I tell you what the big moment is? You know it, though, right?
Oh, yeah. This is that one. Okay, we mentioned it. Yeah, this is the one where Selma adopts a Chinese baby.
Which is now canon. She has this baby forever.
Right, which we saw in the Romeo Old episode.
Actually, I think the baby's even like a toddler now. Like she aged like Apu's kids did.
Whereas Bart and Lisa and Maggie are staying the same age.
So I think I could be wrong. I could be thinking of the.
This episode's going to lose points for integrity.
Yeah, I might be thinking of the Modern Family. Daughter. I don't want to sound racist. I know she also aged prematurely.
Can you please save it for Potter and Family? Guys, we're sorry. Potter and Family has been on hiatus for a little while. Yeah. We'll bring it back.
It was taken down because of all the racist comments I kept making by accident. By accident, people. By accident.
Oh God. Okay, so we are going to take a break and watch Goo Goo Gai Pan. If you've not seen it, you probably should. It is available on SimpsonsWorld.com if you are an FX subscriber. I think this one's on DVD, in fact, too. So maybe you own it on DVD.
I don't know what that is. Is that
some sort of before we
website,
had streaming,
DVD.com.
They would cut down DVD trees and use the rings as.
It's not an app. It's not a DVD app.
It's not an app. You can't Twitter it.
All right. I'm just kidding. I'm 30 years old.
You can't Instagram it.
I try to act young, but I'm not. I don't know what Snapchat is.
Snapchat.
Let's watch this episode.
Actually, just talking about how we're old but not old. My wife yesterday was saying to me, we were talking about. I said we're gonna get crunk, and I was like, kids don't say crunk anymore, right? And she was like, no, they say leek or
No, that doesn't sound right.
Fleek.
Leek's a vegetable.
Is fleek a thing?
To be honest,
it might be fleek.
Crunk is kind of. I'm past crunk too. I know bang clunk. But
bang clunk, yes, of course. All right, well.
Cool. Do kids still say cool?
We think we're pretty cool and with it.
With our Simpsons podcast.
They've gone and changed what it is, and now what is it is weird and scary to us. So we're going to just watch this episode and kind of feel old and bad about ourselves. Thanks, everyone. How do you feel old about yourself? I don't know. Bye.
When do I get my baby?
In a few days.
Oh.
This will give you a chance to explore our nation's ancient culture.
Oh.
And it will give me a chance to closely observe the intimate details of your married life.
Oh.
So, that was Goo Goo Gai Pan.
Goo Goo Moo Goo
The
Gadoo.
Simpsons go to China, and Selma gets a child.
Hilarity ensues?
We'll see. No,
we'll see.
The answer is no. But, we'll see.
Hilarity kind of stopped when they went to China. But anyway, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting that, we'll recap this real quick. This is our first Simpsons go-to episode.
That's right.
Of which there are many.
A very popular trope that I guess started with Bart versus Australia.
Yeah, which I remember the first time I heard that was well after... that season.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. I never thought about it before, and I was like, wow, it really took them 6 seasons to do it, and now it's kind of
and now it's standard, annual kind of. By the way, we've had suggestions to do Bart versus Australia on this show. Maybe we will. We probably will. But
I'm sure we will at some point. I didn't realize that it was one of those. I guess
for that reason. Yeah.
Just same with the Frank Grimes episode. I didn't realize that there was a kind of a split.
Me neither. I just thought that was a pretty well-regarded episode. I'm a fan.
We'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
For now, we'll stick with China.
We're in China.
So real quick, The episode begins with Selma finding out she's going through menopause during a driving test with Mr. Burns. And that's when she realized, I guess the fact that she can't have children anymore makes her realize she really wants to have children. So she decides to adopt. She has trouble adopting in America, so she decides to adopt a Chinese baby. And she does. She goes to China, but the catch is she can't be a single mother. So she lies and says that Homer is her husband. So they go to China. The entire family goes to China, and they have to put up this ruse that they're married long enough to keep the baby. And they do, but then the Chinese government finds out, or the adoption agency, whichever, finds out, and they lose the baby, but they kidnap the baby, and then they get caught again anyway. So then Selma basically convinces this one bureaucrat to change the law and allow her to have the baby, and she does, and they leave, and from now on, after this season 16 episode, it's canon that Selma has an adopted baby,
right?
Ling.
Which we saw in an earlier episode, and I was very confused by.
Yeah.
I'm only slightly less confused now.
Ling Bouvier. So that's that. But I guess we'll start at the very start with the couch gag once again.
Let's do it.
Last week, a couple of weeks, we've been talking about how we thought they went on too long.
Yeah.
This one was great.
I love this one. It was just like a 5-second, if that, couch gag. They run in and everything's dark and the lights come on and like most of the town is there and they go surprise and Homer immediately has a heart attack and just falls on the floor and then it cuts right away.
Yeah, they don't draw it out.
Yeah.
I liked it because even though it was really short, it had a couple things going for it. Just the fact that it opens with blackness, with shadow, and you just see the eyeballs run in and the eyeballs open up. That was a fun little something different. And then it opens up, and then you have the surprise gag, which, Homer dropping dead, whatever, but it doesn't have to be anything amazing.
No, it's
just a quick couch gag.
It's a quick gag. You're chuckling before the show even begins.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that was started a trend, a hopeful trend. For a little while, I actually thought this was going to be my new least worst favorite episode.
I agree with you.
I thought this would top Pokemon.
The beginning of this episode is really strong.
Really strong. Again, we talked about, what was the Battlestar Galactica? Not Battlestar Galactica. The Bart Mangled Banner.
Yeah, right.
Dr. Hibbert giving the flu shots.
Yeah.
And then I think there was one or two other episodes where the jokes not only were funny, they felt like they could have belonged in like a classic era episode.
Yeah, and this definitely had that going for it. I mean, it starts off, Mr. Burns is taking a road test with Selma, and the best Mr. Burns jokes are not only is he a decrepit old man who's old-timey, but old-timey driving man. I love it because he's dressed up with the driving cap and driving goggles.
It's a great conceit, like to come up with what's a funny situation to put Mr. Burns in that he can Burnsify.
Yeah,
and
right.
A driving test, that's brilliant. This is something they could have easily done in a season 7, season 8.
Got a boring situation? Burnsify.
Burns it. And the Burns jokes were great. He made some references to old-timey people who I can't even begin to...
right, he was like, I'm as hip as Guy Lombardo. I have no idea who Guy Lombardo is.
Yeah,
and I liked Selma said... he was like, why do I need to have a driving test? Here's my license. It's perfectly good. And it was an ancient license. He was actually number 44 was his license number. And then she's like, oh, you drove in with 3 people on your grill. And I loved the choice of who the characters were on the grill of his car. It was Hans Moleman, which of course it would be Hans Moleman. A comic book guy who was just like disinterested, the fact that he was hit by a car and like inconvenienced. And then it was the crazy cat lady just going,
with some cats. And Hans Moleman goes, I'm just happy to get out of the house. Or something like that.
And that all happened within like 30 seconds, I guess, of the episode starting. I was like, wow, this is maybe it's just because we were used to the kind of bland Mo letter blues from last week.
Right. So
this was much better.
Yeah. So Selma she starts getting the first symptoms of menopause, and she gets a hot flash.
Yeah.
And again, this is a great inciting incident for the episode. The menopause is what's going to take us into the story, and it's not just some random scene. She works at the DMV, and her giving a driving test is a great way for the hot flash to cartoonishly, it's a big moment. She's not just finding out gradually she's having menopause. It
happens all at once.
Yeah, in this situation that allows for a lot of humor, and then on top of that, it's Burnsified, which is great.
Yeah.
So
I love it when it gets Burnsified.
Yeah, exactly. So everything ends up. I guess we might as well talk about this real quick. I remember for years, I don't know if this is still the case because we haven't talked about it, but for years you have always said that your favorite secondary Simpsons character is Mr. Burns.
That is absolutely still true.
Yeah?
I love Mr. Burns.
Why? You wanted to say why? Or?
It's for the reasons I was saying before. Like, I think it was Conan O'Brien said in an interview once, obviously Conan wrote on The Simpsons for a number of years, he said, when you're writing Mr. Burns, you picture the oldest, like, meanest, richest person who's, like, so out of touch that you can. And that's, like... That's exactly why Mr. Burns is so good, because he's this rich, powerful man, but he's also, his head is in the past, I guess, but also he has these weird moments of whimsy, I guess, where he's like, oh, what was I laughing about? Oh, yes, that crippled Irishman. And just stuff like that I love. I love the fact that he's evil and cartoonish, but not cartoonishly evil.
I like that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I love Mr. Burns. He's not my favorite. He might not even be in my top 3, but he's still way up there. My favorite used to be Moe. I just love Moe. I'm kind of gotten sick with him because I think the Simpsons writers agreed with me, and they also love Moe, and then they kind of just, they used him too much, and then they didn't use him the right way, obviously.
Yeah.
But now my number one go-to is Wiggum. I'm a big Chief Wiggum fan.
Chief Wiggum, also a great character.
But I love Mr. Burns. So there's a Burns joke in this episode where the car crashes after Selma has her menopause.
Oh, I know where you're going.
And it looks like his face is buried in an airbag. Smithers comes out of nowhere. It's like, Mr. Burns, are you okay? Oh, good, this airbag saved you. And turns out it's his lungs. His lungs, He pulls out, and his lungs are hanging out of his mouth, and he literally slurps them back in.
Oh, my God. Even you just describing it, I'm like, like twitching in my chair.
So obviously this is breaking a lot of reality rules. This is something you wouldn't see in season 1.
Right. No, definitely not.
Or season 5, probably. What did you think?
It reminded me of... I forget which episode it is. It might have been Battlestar Galactica, actually. It's the one where Moe meets a woman at a fair, and his heart literally starts pounding out of his chest like a big cartoon-shaped heart. Yeah. Oh, it was around... It was like a season 11, season 12 kind of thing.
It wasn't Moe when he meets Helen Hunt?
No, it wasn't that one.
He doesn't have his heart beat out like that?
No,
that's different. Yeah, I know.
But it was that kind of joke where it's super cartoony body humor, I guess. And I thought this was... And even that scene, like, they're cute, but I don't know that the laugh is worth the, like, hey, this is a cartoon.
Right. I can see what you're saying, because when I see jokes like these, and you know what, we'll jump ahead real quick, because it's
this particular joke just made me squirm more than anything.
Yeah, and we'll jump ahead, because even though it's not important in the story, but later on when they're in China, there's a fight scene with Homer and some monks, and one of the monks reaches in and pulls his heart out.
Right,
and lets it beat, and then puts it back into him. And again, it's the same kind of cartoonish where this could never really happen. It's more for the visual gag.
Right.
Did you like that
playing
one? Playing
devil's advocate a little bit on that. I didn't like it that much for the same reason. But playing devil's advocate, I liked that at least. That was a reference to like old kung fu movies where that would happen, like a guy would reach in and grab out his heart. Yeah. And I thought it was funny, like, to see that happen, because that whole scene was like a pastiche of kung fu movies.
More context to it. All right, yeah, I see. When I see jokes like that, they typically don't bother me. I guess I'm with you. I kind of wish they weren't there because it's not worth the laugh, but it's also, I'm not angry at it.
Yeah, they can be funny, but it's all at the same time, it's also like you're recognizing it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Which, it is a cartoon, of course, but
what?
This is not a
I only agree to live action Simpsons podcast.
You sound a little bit Dalek-y there. I only watch reality television. We're gonna have to bring back the Dalek voice.
I do like the idea of a very particular TV critic, Dalek,
who likes nothing but reality shows.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live in the 80s was needed to be exterminated.
I can't keep up with these Kardashians. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was funny, but I didn't love it.
Okay, fair enough.
And around that time, too, actually I think it was right before that, because Selma causes Burns to crash the car, because I think she opens the roof, which catches wind, and they start spinning off. And Bart and Milhouse are playing hockey in the street, which I thought was fun, because you never see them play hockey, except that one episode where they played hockey.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see snow on the ground and everything.
Yeah.
Because it was literally that one scene, maybe, and then
and then everyone's back in their shorts and whatever, short sleeve shirts. But Milhouse and Bart get into like a fake hockey fight, and Bart pulls Milhouse's shirt over his eyes like they do in hockey, and Milhouse can't see, and he's running around, and Bart's like, car. And maybe not the best joke, but I'll admit that I laughed. Milhouse goes, car, but that's just a noun. I need a predicate. What does that mean?
Yeah.
It was one of those like wordplay
Right.
jokes that they've gotten so fond of.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy, but I didn't hate it. I didn't outright hate it, but I don't know. It was a little too cutesy for me.
It was, but I don't know. Maybe it was just the whole flow of the opening like 5 minutes was
Yeah.
so good that I was already in the mood to laugh, and it got a laugh out of me.
Yeah, if you're in the mood to laugh, have a laugh.
Just Burnsify it a little bit and have that laugh.
So the next scene is in the hospital where she finds out that she has menopause and she was having a hot flash.
Yeah.
And then so it's all right. So before we do scene by scene.
Let's talk about the episode overall. I think.
Yeah.
Is that what you want
Yeah.
to do?
So
Yeah.
it's a great idea to do a Simpsons episode. I was really on
Agreed.
board, and again, I was really hopeful for this episode because not only was it funny, but once I realized where it was going, the idea of a major Simpsons character, Selma,
Mm-hmm.
going through menopause, which is a very huge life change that half the population goes through.
Right, and you don't really see it addressed in a lot of sitcoms.
Right, and
really.
it hasn't been addressed before in The Simpsons, so that's another point.
Yeah.
So I was really excited. It's weird for me to say I was excited for
boy,
menopause.
menopause.
Yeah. But that's how I am. I love the
Oh, yeah,
menopause.
absolutely.
But Mrs. Doubtfire is my favorite movie ever. No. So it was just interesting to see it. This was kind of a spiritual sequel to. They make a reference to Jub Jub.
Right.
Which they haven't made a reference to him in forever, and this is kind of a spiritual episode to where she gets
Selma's
Jub Jub.
choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where she was also having sort of a midlife crisis in terms of her as a woman, particularly. And she even ends with singing, "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman,"
Right.
to Jub Jub. So this is kind of the sequel where apparently Jub Jub doesn't make her feel like a natural woman enough. She needs more.
Yeah, I liked that because it kind of, instead of going back and ruining that episode,
Yeah.
it kind of was a button on that episode, because that episode she's like, oh, you know what, I can love this animal,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But I can understand that over time, especially if she's going through menopause, she might change the way that she thinks a little
Yeah.
bit. And I thought this episode addressed it pretty well, because they weren't just like, oh, forget about that episode that ended with
Right.
Jub Jub. They actually like call attention to it.
It's not like they retconned it so that her and Jub Jub were a '90s grunge band
Yeah,
together.
right.
You know, Selma and the Lizard. So, and they.
I think they toured with the Jesus and Mary chain in the 90s.
No, yeah, it didn't do anything to harm previous episodes.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and this is season 16, so it's not crazy in the future, but it's also pretty far from the classic years. So
Yeah.
it was that 90s show was season 18.
That was season
19.
Yeah, it was
so
around
it was
this time.
only a few years later. So it's just they could have easily an episode about Selma going through menopause could have easily just been mishandled. And
Yeah.
for the most part, it wasn't.
It was not. No,
Yeah.
I thought it was done pretty well.
There is a line in that very scene where Bart goes, "What's menopause?" Which by itself was kind of just like lazy writing. But
Yeah.
then Homer replies that it's like when the stork that delivered the baby gets shot by a drunken hunter. What do you think
Right.
about that?
That's not a bad way of describing menopause. But I did think that Bart's question was a little lazy.
I guess
it was
it's
fine with me. I
guess
don't know.
it's- I'm not opposed to the way they describe it. The fact that it was, a little bit. It kind of took away the seriousness of this condition, or not condition, whatever you would,
life change.
Yeah, this change of life. It was kind of funny. I thought it was a little dark. I don't know.
Yeah,
mean,
well, okay.
There's a lot of dark humor, especially with the menopause. So then there's a video. So Dr.
Yeah.
Hibbert goes, well, let me explain. And he does a video. And again, this might be the first time we've seen this in a new episode. The classic Simpsons, let's play an old film strip. They haven't.
Yes.
Have we seen any of these yet? Is
I
this
don't
our
think we
first
have.
on the
And,
show.
Obviously this used to be the Troy McClure
Right,
domain.
right.
Where you'd see, hi, I'm Troy McClure, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
You think they stopped doing them when Phil Hartman died? Or
I do
or
think
did
that was
them
probably
less?
a part of it.
I
Maybe
think
not
that's
the only
maybe
part
that's
of it.
part of it. Maybe it's part of it is that even when we were in school, they were still playing some film strips, which was already in the early '90s.
I didn't see
or
any
at
film
least,
strips.
I don't know, I went to my school. They did.
Yeah.
We played some stuff like that, and there were instances where we used really outdated technology even for the '90s.
Yeah.
Before the budget had. The schools were always a few years behind. Everybody
of
else.
course.
I still have like I remember they used mimeographs instead of Xerox machines. And
Yeah,
stuff like
we
that.
did that. Yeah, back in the early
But,
'90s.
but it was still kind of maybe it was just because it's so far away that students can't relate at all. Like he uses a VHS, it's not a film strip. Maybe that was like a joke on now everybody's on DVDs, or they were at the time. It's season 16.
This was 10 years ago.
So-
So yeah, that we're pretty out of
Yeah.
the VHS at that point.
So maybe there's a few reasons why they don't do it anymore, but they can't do Troy McClure anymore, obviously.
Of course.
Robert Wagner was a good replacement, a good choice.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it's a little bit like he's saying, "Hey, I am Troy McClure.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the real life Troy McClure." And he kind of is the real life Troy McClure.
He kind of is.
Yeah.
So it was kind of perfect.
And he also does, I don't know if he did them at that point, but now he does do commercials for like AARP and like Medicaid and things like that.
Right.
He's gone on in years. Those Austin Powers checks have stopped coming in.
And his voice is perfect for it. He had, just like Phil Hartman, he just had the right voice for it.
He's got that authoritative, leading man kind of voice.
Yeah, and so this is what I was going to mention. I was saying how the stork line was kind of dark. There's another really dark line in the video.
I know exactly what you're going with.
Yeah, there's an old couple, and he goes, your life will still pretty much be the same after menopause.
You can do anything you did before.
Right. And
this woman says, really? Even have children? And he's like, no.
Yeah,
get out of here. We're filming a video.
And his reaction was well written and also well executed. He was really funny the way he delivered it.
Yeah.
But she makes a really sad face. Like, it was really depressing.
Yeah, I mean, it's saying what menopause is.
Yeah.
But it was a little mean-spirited,
Exactly.
I guess.
That's it. It felt a little mean-spirited.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't. I mean, I can't specifically say what was mean-spirited. It just felt mean-spirited. But like you said, it is kind of part and parcel with the...
It's cold, I guess. It just leaves you cold.
Yeah, I guess that's it. It was cold.
But I did like, right after that, he's like, so let's give menopause some men applause?
Yeah,
is that what we're going with?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
and then it just ends. It says the end.
Yeah. I thought that was funny.
that
was a good cap to it.
I was really excited because he had the great Mr. Burns scene.
Yeah.
And that entire video felt post-classic. Almost all of it felt like it could have belonged not in just a season 10 or 11, but that could have belonged in the season 7 or 8.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would have been Troy McClure, but...
Yeah, but it worked.
But Robert Wagner was great, yeah.
Do you know this baby once outraced the flying Finn Pavonermi?
What? Turn the heater off. It's boiling in here.
What are you talking about? This car is cooler than Guy Lombardo.
So she decides to adopt a baby because she realizes she needs more out of life. She wants to be a mother. She doesn't want to miss out on that.
Right, because she says Jub can't take care of me when I'm old. All he can do is eat me when I'm dead.
Yeah, which is a funny line.
I kind of like that.
I was a little concerned about it, and this is overthinking it, but it's like you don't just want kids so they take care of you, right? There was more, and it is implied that it's more than that. But
I think it's more than
that.
But
that line made it almost sound like it was just that. But that's
like one of the primary differences between a pet and a child.
Right. So she decides to adopt, and she adopts this cute little baby boy, and she's very excited. And it turns out it's one of the Cletus's kids.
Right,
He gave away accidentally because he thought his wife, Brandine, said she wanted no more babies, but she said she wanted no more rabies.
Yeah, and then Brandine is in the car foaming at the mouth, and she says, "Give me back my belly fruit," which...
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought of that.
Like the line "belly fruit" is like, oh, that's an interesting way to call a baby, but it was for that character. But it was just like, eh.
Yeah. It also seemed weird that the adoption people would actually give her back her baby when she has rabies and she's screaming.
And that was really another dark thing. The fact that they just took the baby right out of her arms, even though she only had him for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That's a pretty serious issue when biological parents take their adopted babies back.
Yeah.
And it's something that, like, I'm not saying they can't do a joke about, but this felt like either rushed or didn't really, it was too serious. It's like, there's certain topics you really shouldn't joke about, but you can if you do it right. And
right, exactly.
This wasn't, I don't know, this didn't feel like it was up to it.
No,
you don't want to do a lazy 9/11 joke,
Right.
So some people can do a really great 9/11 joke, but don't be lazy about it because it probably isn't going to work unless you're really lucky.
Yeah, it takes effort to craft a 9/11 joke. Yeah, and so they take away the child, and then Lisa, of course, brings up that she could adopt a Chinese baby.
8-year-old Lisa, the expert on international adoption policies.
Well, if anyone's going to do it, it's clearly going to be Lisa. So then Selma begins the process of trying to figure out what that would entail, and she meets with someone at the Chinese embassy.
I want to talk about
Russia's crazy cousin, I think, or crazy neighbor.
So this is something that pertains to the entire episode. So we might as well start here. Yeah. So Hank Azaria does the voice of the adoption agent there, and he's done this voice pretty much since the beginning. They've been doing Chinese voices since One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish. Even though they also had
George Takei did a voice in that episode,
and there was the other Sam Shimoto.
Okay.
But Hank Azaria has done Asian voices before.
Yeah.
And I don't, again, we've talked about this before. I think we even talked about it last week with Dave. I can't remember what it was specific. Oh, it was maybe the Indian culture. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So my point is, look, I'm a white guy.
Yes.
I'm born and raised in Staten Island, New York.
The bastion of tolerance.
Very, like, if you're not Italian, you're Irish. That's pretty much like the...
And if you're not Irish, you're Irish-Italian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like that's 80% of the population. And so... my worldview is a little bit limited. So I never know whether I'm overcompensating. I don't,
Right.
Especially because I also went to NYU, which is a very, left-wing liberal school that, kind of liberal in a subjective,
liberal arts.
Yeah. In like a hippy-dippy kind of, this is very overgeneralizing here. My point is maybe I'm overcompensating. Maybe I'm calling racist when it's not racist. So the thing is, I don't know when I'm doing that and when I don't. I do think that we've come a long way, especially in the last few years, especially since Barack Obama has become president. I think there has been a distinct change in the way we perceive things. So my point is, 20 years ago, Hank Azaria is doing a Chinese guy. It's not offensive at all. It's not racist. Hank Azaria is not a racist person. The writers aren't racist. He's just doing a Chinese accented English. And it wasn't offensive. But now I feel uncomfortable hearing it.
It was uncomfortable. The counterpoint that I thought the same thing. I was like, it's weird because he's doing like, he do like the English voice.
Please don't do any more of that.
Well,
we don't want the hate mail.
I'm not doing it.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It's problematic, but here's the flip side. He's been doing Apu's voice for 26 years.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking
Is that less offensive?
So, all right. So you plug Simpsons Trivia at the end of every show. A couple of weeks ago was Simpsons Trivia in February, and we did an episode. We did Much Apu About Nothing, where Apu is going to be deported back to the country. And I actually thought while I was watching it, I was like, you know what? Hank Azaria doing the Apu voice. It literally is the exact same situation. And again, 20 years ago, you wouldn't even give it a second thought.
Yeah.
And maybe not even season 16. Which was the mid-2000s, I feel like only in the last few years, in terms of everything, women, homosexuals, LGBT, the entire community, transgenders, races of all kinds, religions, I feel like the country has pushed a little bit more towards
not being like overtly racist all the time.
Exactly. It's the voices haven't changed. Our standards have kind of raised up a little bit.
Right.
Apu, I guess he's just been doing so long, you do kind of stop thinking about it.
I think what the difference is, and even in this episode, when they were doing the Chinese voices, like they're doing that anglicized Chinese accent.
Yeah.
And there's not a joke like, haha, they talk differently.
Yeah, right.
There's really no joke. It's he's just doing an impersonation of what this character might sound like. Like it's not someone like me doing it as a white guy.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the joke.
I mean, compared to an extreme. An extreme would be something like blackface in vaudeville, but that I think they were commenting on, like, this is how black people talk and act, and that was racist. It was a racist depiction.
Right.
But say something maybe like Breakfast at Tiffany's.
That's different because Mickey Rooney's playing that character, and there was like physical effects. It's not just the voice.
There is physical effects, but he's
the comic relief.
But he's still playing the character just like Hank Azaria is, except you don't have the physical. But his voice is the buck teeth and the fake teeth. Like that's his vocal interpretation of that.
I agree with you, but at the same time, like someone whose first language is Mandarin or some kind of Chinese who learns English, they might actually sound like that.
Well, that's what I was wondering. See,
that's why. Here's what I want to bring up. Did you see the movie The Interview?
Not yet.
The Seth Rogen one. Okay, so there, obviously that takes place. It's different because it's North Korea, but there's a lot of Asian actors in it, and they kind of speak in a similar manner, like Randall Park, who plays Kim Jong-un, like not to this extent, and obviously he is Asian, but has that kind of like anglicized voice. But there's also a scene in the movie where Seth Rogen is drunk and he's doing like a horrible like a yellow face, I guess.
Yellow voice.
Yeah, he's doing yellow voice, and like when I watched that, I was like, oh, I can't believe they're doing that in 2014.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. It's the difference between
in the same
is the language and the speaking like the joke, or are they just doing it because that's
we're
realistic?
We're dealing with some really tricky issues here that is probably well beyond our scope.
But like, if you do a Russian accent, is that offensive to Russian people?
Well, that's the thing, and they've done German accents and stuff like that. I think the difference is if they're a European white, you kind of get to,
agree.
you kind of make fun of them
measure.
because well, here's one more thing, and then we can move on.
Sure.
So in the same episode, we have special guest star Lucy Liu, and she's American. Is she Chinese American?
I'm pretty sure she's Chinese.
So she
and
is
American.
Asian American.
Yeah.
And she does an accent that's it's English, but it's with a Chinese accent.
Right.
And hers is in that same vein, which to us almost sounds racist and cartoonish because it's so stereotypical. But again, I mean, the two biggest jobs I've ever had, the two longest jobs I've ever worked, I worked with a majority of Chinese and Chinese Americans. So I was surrounded by that, and there is that I think it's because Chinese is such a vocal language. They talk in tones with annotations.
Right.
It almost has this effect where it sounds like it's being exaggerated. But Lucy Liu's was more it was much more low key than Hank Azaria, or when I think Harry Shearer did one too. And she again, this is where it's tricky. I don't know if she gets more leeway because she's Asian American. But she was not using her real voice. She was doing what she considered accented Chinese, and it seemed a little bit more respectful, faithful.
I mean, I think
Hank Azaria.
I think they were both trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
That like. What would it sound like if a native Chinese-speaking person was speaking English?
Right.
They would have the intonations like you just said.
So was Lucy Liu doing it better because she grew up with it and she could just do it better, or was she being consciously or subconsciously less racist?
I think probably just to us trying to be very inclusive and open-minded and very accepting. Like we're just throwing more shade at Hank Azaria because he's Italian like we are.
Is Azaria an Italian name?
I think so.
I mean, it does
Ends in
end
a
with an
vowel.
A. Yeah, I don't think that's the be-all end-all for being Italian. But
I think it is. That's it. You like the pizzas and you got it. Italian.
That's Italian. That's Italian voice. That's racist against Italians. You can't do that.
Well, then Luigi is a problematic character on the show as well.
He sure is. All right. So I think we talked about that.
There's much worse things that they do with respect to Chinese people, which we will get to.
Yeah, of course. So
before we get to that, so Selma decides that she wants to adopt the baby, and she's speaking with this Hank Azaria voiced Chinese guy at the embassy. And the rub is that she can't be a single mother. She needs to have a husband, and she kind of has to write the name down right in front of him, like he doesn't let her weasel out of it, which is an important thing to learn.
It's what separates us from the animals.
Except the weasel. So she just kind of, in a fit of, in the moment, the heat of the moment, writes down Homer's name.
I mean,
she
really,
writes down Homer.
Even if she had time to think about it, we haven't seen any other men in her life.
I mean, Homer's probably the best one to pick because he kind of has to do it.
I guess she could have picked one of her ex-husbands.
Yeah, right.
She married Grandpa after. Yeah, she married Grandpa
after this. Yeah. So she puts down Homer, and when that happened, I was like, okay, I like what they're doing. They've set this up because they had a scene when Selma was in the hospital where Homer was kind of giving her shit, and she punches him in the crotch.
Right.
So we already obviously know that they have an antagonistic relationship, but you've set that up now, and now they have to work together. Bam, drama immediately.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, because especially not only is it your typical ruse plot with somebody's faking something else for everybody, but it's Homer and Selma. So
putting those two characters together, making them have to work together. Great, I love it.
It reminded me of the episode where Selma marries Grandpa, where Homer and Patty have to temporarily team up, and that was
exactly
probably the best scene in the episode. It was one scene.
Yeah,
and this potentially could have been an entire episode with that same kind of dynamic.
Right. So they go to China with Marge pretending to be the nanny, and the kids are Selma's
they didn't
kids
have
now.
to do.
They
could have easily said Marge was her sister, and those were Marge's kids, and Marge was the single mother, and that would have made a lot less of a ruse.
They made it
a lot harder for themselves.
A lot more complicated.
But I guess that's because it's a show, and you want to make it hard. But
But my point is, they have this setup, and I think it's a pretty good setup. Like, there's a lot of comedy you can get out of that. There's a lot of tension. Yeah. And when they get there, Lucy Liu is the adoption official in China, and she says, "I'm going to be watching you." Like, there's I forget how many day waiting period. Yeah. We have to make sure that you're fit. And she's going to watch them and make sure, like, they're fine.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, they're going to have to pretend to be this married couple to fool this adoption person. Right. And then immediately, they don't do that. instantly, the very next scene is just Lucy Liu taking them from Chinese landmark to Chinese landmark, not observing them at all, just kind of like being their tour guide.
And okay, I agree. So I was very again.
I have more, but continue.
Oh, all right. Well, so
it gets worse from there.
Yeah. So far, it was so good. We had the burn scene, then we had that great video.
Yeah. I'm jumping ahead. We can come back. I just kind of wanted to talk.
No. I'm talking about the same thing. So once it was clear, I mean, we already knew ahead of time, but once it was clear that this was a Simpsons Go to China episode, so far everything was great, and we were worried because for the most part, at least in these new episodes, whenever they go to another location, the ones I can think of off the top of my head are Japan, Brazil, England. So they're usually weaker episodes, and because it is this, let's stop and look at all the landmarks and make jokes, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I got excited because not only you have them going to get the baby, so they actually have a strong reason to be there. It's not just they want a vacation there or something.
Yep.
So you got that, and you have the conflict with the fact that she's faking her marriage with Homer. So that's a A plot and a B plot. And I feel like when you do a Simpsons Goes To, it's always best when the let's see all the landmarks is the B plot or even the C plot, which is even better.
Yeah.
Because you should do some of those jokes. You are using this new location. You might as well ring it out for what it's worth. Bart versus Australia, the plot is Bart pissed off an entire country.
Yeah, pissed off the nation of Australia and
then,
has to atone for it.
And there's relatively few gags. It's really when they're in like the gift shop and a couple other gags where this is the Simpsons visiting Australia.
Well, there's a bunch of gags because there's like the Foster's gag.
But it's the B plot.
Crocodile Dundee.
It's the B plot, whereas the newer ones
they're peppered in. Yeah. They're not necessarily scenes to themselves.
Right. So this one I was excited because it looked like the Simpsons visit Chinese landmarks were going to be they'd be less important to the story. So that would be that's a great way to do gag because and if they can tie into everything, even better. But it didn't.
It didn't, and it was just it made sense. It was so good. It started off so well.
It really did
because. Selma writes down Homer's name. Bam. There's a reason that the entire family has to go to China because Homer's got to go. He's not going to do it without Marge, and obviously they got to bring the kids. Right. So that made sense. It's not like the Agnes Skinner going to Capital City to get Armin Tanzarian back where the kids are just there and they don't even explain it.
Right.
So I liked that. And then, like I said, she's like, I'm going to be watching you. And then she's just a tour guide. And then for no real reason, they just add another lie on top of the lie where Homer just happenstance blurts out that he's a Chinese acrobat.
Yeah, his thinking is that he can, since he's lying about being married, he can lie about anything and he doesn't have to have a boring job. Which again, working in a nuclear power plant is not boring. He's a safety inspector. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that was whatever. It
was just okay. Let's talk about that because that was weird. Because she asked, "What do you do for a living?" He's like, "Oh, I'm a nuclear," and then he's thinking to himself, like, "Oh, I could say I'm anything," and then he doesn't have an idea. He just looks and sees a Chinese acrobat and says, "I'm a Chinese acrobat."
It was just to create that.
It was
situation.
Just so that exactly, so that you could get Homer in a Chinese acrobat scene later on in the episode.
In the split second where he said, "Wait a minute," I thought he was thinking, "Oh, I shouldn't say nuclear because of some kind
That's
of."
That's what I thought they were going to do. Yeah, like they're going to want like secrets.
Yeah. And
which Homer obviously wouldn't have.
But that wasn't it at all. It was hey, let's come up with a stupid thing. And I guess the only thing it leads to is the Chinese acrobat scene and then him in the hospital. It doesn't actually. That's not how they find out. That's not how they discover. It is how they discover the ruse, but it didn't have to be in a hospital room. It could have been anywhere.
Yeah, because Homer.
I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves story-wise, but
I guess my point is they had a good setup, and we can kind of talk about where it went.
Yeah.
But they did not use it.
No, they pooped all over it.
They just poop it out. All right, so let's go back and let's talk about when they actually are on their way to China.
Okay, they're on it. They go by flights. They fly to China because that makes sense.
That makes the most sense.
That makes the most sense. So I like the fact that they flaunt.
Flaunt?
I like this. We're going to cut all this.
All right, we'll cut this.
I'm literally going to pull the wires out of the...
To hell with this!
All right. So they fly to China. They're on the airplane. Homer gets drunk on Drambuie and tranquilizers.
Yep.
Which is that an option? I'd love to. If I ever fly on a plane, I would love to.
Tranquilizers, please.
Tranquilizers and Drambuie. That would be a much better flyer.
Yeah, really.
No, so he gets drunk, and then the Marge goes, "Okay, now's the time to spring on him that he has to fake being your." They knew he's not going to be happy about it.
Right.
So they soften him. They wait till he's drunk. One, he knows he's drunk because he looks out the window and he sees a dragon.
A luck dragon. Yeah.
And the dragon says, well, can I have some peanuts, or what was it?
Right, it was like, oh, will you share your peanuts with me? And he's like, you can have one. And then that wasn't good enough. I don't really remember what happened.
Yeah, he says you can have one. And then the dragon flies off mad. And then he talks to two other dragons and says the guy was cheap with the peanuts.
Right, and then one dragon takes out an instrument I don't recognize and starts playing like a Chinese song.
And they cry rainbows. I mean, it's a commentary, I guess, on Chinese pop culture. A specific type of Chinese movie making or Chinese fantasy.
I guess. I mean, it just felt like that was the beginning of Chinese reference Rama. Where they're just going to start referencing Chinese things and like, isn't that weird?
So did you like that scene specifically, or did you hate that scene specifically?
I actually liked when he was drunk and he looks out and he sees the dragon, but everything else after that with the other dragons, and then they come back at the very end.
Yeah, so at the very end, the episode
like
ends with the three of them singing about how they're going to sleep for 1,000 years and come back and
and how happy they are that the Simpsons left China.
You didn't like it?
No, I didn't like that at all.
I thought I liked it. I thought it's like, oh, that's if you're going to go to China, that's something you can talk about. Is that's such a heavy part of their culture. I guess they didn't. It wasn't laugh out loud, and I guess they didn't really do much with it. It was just kind of
I didn't think anything was funny beyond the interaction Homer had.
I guess they could have done more with it. Yeah,
right. I mean,
all right. So we have two roads diverge in a Simpsons wood here. Do we want
yellow wood?
Do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about the story? We'll go scene by scene, or would you rather talk first? Let's just talk about the Simpsons goes to China part of the episode, and then come back to Selma's adoption.
Let's talk about like some of the Chinese specific things,
so,
because they're flying on the plane and they pass
General Tao.
I would say General Sao, but they said I think they said General Go or something.
It was definitely different than what
there are a lot of like regional interpretations of how to say it.
What do I say? I think I said General Tao. Yeah, I said
General Tao. But
whatever it was, it
was a giant Chinese takeout box like you get from any American Chinese food place.
Yeah, and that was their monument to General Tao.
Yeah, and Homer said something like, "Oh, that puts the Lincoln Memorial to shame," or something like that.
So, all right, I do like I could see the idea of Homer finding a giant takeout box better than something like the Lincoln Monument or the Washington Jefferson because he likes to eat.
Yeah.
That's fine. The fact that they have a giant takeout carton as a monument in China, I don't even know what General Tao or Sao's deal is. I'm not sure if he's a real culture. I feel like he is.
I think he's not actually a real person. But I could be wrong. I'm no expert.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm an expert on
The Simpsons,
episodes of The Twilight Zone that are on YouTube. And that's about it.
I'm an episode of. I'm obviously not an expert on talking. I don't know if anybody's noticed. But no, it was racist. It was racist. Yeah, let's just call a spade a spade. I don't even know if they use takeout cartons in
Chinese food. That's an
Chinese
American
food
thing.
Is American Chinese food.
Right. It's pretty different Chinese food.
I have no idea. I can't really speak for that. But it just seemed like, look, you have this entire one of the largest countries in the world. You have the largest country in the world population-wise. It's one of the oldest countries in the world. It has tens of thousands of years of history.
Right. And the best we can do is this lazy
giant Chinese food carton.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, like the dragons, I didn't mind because that is a big part of their not their mythology, but
their culture.
Their culture, yeah.
Their history.
So that I didn't mind.
I didn't think the dragons were offensive. I just didn't think it was funny.
Right, exactly.
I didn't think it needed to be there.
Exactly.
This not only didn't need to be there and wasn't funny, it was offensive.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising that they went there. It's just I don't know. So then what else did they visit? What else is on your mind?
They went to the Shaolin Temple with the monks, which I didn't think that was so problematic. I don't know, did you?
Okay, well, I didn't think it was problematic if we're talking racist. I get that it was a parody of kung fu movies, so I guess it has something to say. But the joke of Homer going up and saying, "Hey, look," and he goes,
they've done it.
That literally is from Bart versus Australia, where he thinks the American soldier is like a Buckingham Palace guard, and he just acts like an asshole in front of him, and then the guy punches him in the face, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
This was the exact same gag,
except don't take chicken to the extreme.
Yeah, exactly.
Burnsified it.
Yeah, they Burnsified it without Mr. Burns. Instead of punching him in the face, they again, because it's a parody of kung fu movies, and it looked just like
I liked it. It looked,
So
you know.
I guess that's what it was. I don't know. I could have gone either way. At this point, I was realizing that the episode wasn't going to be.
This is when it started to really go downhill.
Yeah, I think I'd already realized that. Oh no, it's not going to be our best episode.
It's like,
yet.
oh, they're not going to treat it with care and respect.
All right. Well, how much time we have left?
Yeah.
No. So, I don't know.
I mean, there could have been a better kind of like inciting incident to having the kung fu parody thing instead of Homer doing the exact same thing we've seen him do before.
You're a bigger fan of kung fu movies than I am. I get that it was a pretty faithful kung fu parody. It just didn't make me. The laughs is that he's getting kicked in the face, and that doesn't really do much for me.
Well, it's fun to see Homer get beat up when he's being a jerk.
Yeah, if it's, I don't know. It depends on the way they do it. It's just,
right.
I don't know.
Well,
it's just like he got kicked in the face a bunch of times.
I didn't hate it. I thought it was well animated and it was interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what else? There's a Great Wall of China.
Well, but even before that, they go to Mao Zedong's grave.
Oh yeah. Ugh.
And Homer was like, "Oh, look how cute he is!" And
that was
even though
weird.
he killed however many people,
Yeah.
and then that was it. That was the joke.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Mao Zedong is a mass murderer, but look how cute his dead corpse is.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's the joke is that they you're demystifying this tyrant by doing something like that. Like, ooh, look how cute he is. But it's just, I don't know. Also, the fact. I mean, I know that that's a monument and everything, or whatever it is. Whatever you call it. To me, dead bodies are creepy. I don't know. I think it's weird.
It was weird, and it was just offensive to offhandedly refer to genocide and kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. And then, then it was the Great Wall of China, and they have Mongolians trying to come in, which South Park did.
Yeah, South Park
Jake,
did
Sonia
it.
Coke. But I don't remember actually who did it first because
I believe South Park.
Probably
did it first.
South Park because this was 2005 or 2006.
I mean, I guess that episode was a little bit later in South Park's run, but I feel like South Park did it first. This one I didn't find necessarily racist. I mean, it was like these Mongolians who were. It was the exact same joke as South Park, where they're still in period garb and they're still trying to get over the wall, which they don't need to.
Yeah.
The joke though that the Simpsons writers thought was very clever is that they're using pogo sticks. Which was kind of lame. I did like when it fails and he says, "Okay, everybody come back Monday with five
new ideas."
Like that would have been funny if it was a flashback to the Mongolians trying to get across. It doesn't. The fact that South Park did the same joke, but South Park gets away with doing sillier stuff like that.
Right.
This really didn't make any sense. Why these three Mongolian? Like I liked it because then he goes, "I can't do it that day Monday. I have a thing." And
my kid has a thing.
Yeah, my kid has a thing. So that's like, oh, see, these are just like regular, modern, middle class guys.
Yeah.
So that's funny, but then if you think about it, then like, what the hell are they trying to pogo stick over the wall for?
I don't know. It was
a mess.
It was a funny idea that they didn't really do well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that funny an idea.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know. I didn't like it. Oh, and then they went to see. They saw Death of a Salesman.
Yeah.
But done in like. I don't know what the style would be.
Not kabuki.
Not
that's
kabuki.
Japanese,
That's Japanese.
But whatever Chinese style of drama that. Or a style of Chinese drama.
I think that just went over my head because I didn't even understand what was going on.
I liked that better. I think it was more or less the same as the dragon joke, or at least with the dragon singing at the end with the high pitched voice and the music and the crying the rainbows.
Yeah.
I think it was just a comment on that particular way, type of Chinese storytelling. So I liked that because the dragon thing was literally just doing it and it wasn't funny. Whereas this was that type of Chinese storytelling on a quintessential, like very low key American drama.
Right.
So I like that. Like I like the dragon goes by in the back and it says American. What was American economy or whatever it said?
Yeah, it was like something pro-American.
Yeah, and
I didn't understand why. Like,
I mean,
China's not pro-America.
Well, I don't know.
Are they?
I don't think it was pro-American. I think
it was. Oh,
I think it was it
was mocking that American.
Yeah, it's like Death of a Salesman is all about how modern capitalism like it takes its effect on the average working man.
Yeah,
and I feel like they were playing.
That's what Death of a Salesman was about. Oh my god!
It's actually about a salesman who dies and then decides to come back for revenge.
They should have called it Life of a Salesman. All right.
So I liked that, and what I really liked was. So, I mean, I'm just guessing the joke was that, like, here's a different culture's take on a classic American play. And what I loved about it was Homer's line, like, I finally get it now. Like, the idea that for whatever reason, because Homer wouldn't get it, I don't have to explain why I thought it was funny. That's why I thought it was funny.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, I'm yawning on air. That's not good. That's not good podcasting.
Am I boring you, Dan?
A little bit. Pick up the pace, Cone. Jack just did a marvelous soft shoe. Marvelous soft shoe is a good name for the episode, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, so then comes the scene where Homer says that he was a Chinese acrobat, which I guess we'll get into that now.
Yeah, why don't we just talk about that now?
Yeah, I mean, again, I said this before, but it didn't make sense to me. Like, why have that scene where Homer comes up with a fake job when you want it? It smacked of just the writers need to set up this Chinese acrobat scene at the end. Or no, it wasn't even at the end. It was it the end of Act 2?
Yeah, that's Act 2 because Act 3 starts, I think, with
because
them finding
Homer
out.
gets hurt, he goes to the hospital, he has sex with Marge, and Lucy Liu watches, which... There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know either.
That sounded like me trying to start my first car.
Was your first car powered by squirrels?
It was powered by like a horny Warner Brothers wolf. Like, ooh, hubba hubba.
Boys, you see what I was talking about? The greatest things can happen.
I finally get this play.
Yeah, why does Homer say Chinese acrobat?
Because he sees one.
Here's the problem. I get that, but here's the problem. He says, I can say anything. I can be any job I want.
Right. So you think he'd pick something that he's alys wanted to be, an astronaut.
Exactly
Well, he
my
was an
point.
astronaut.
Well, that's true.
He's been everything.
That's exactly my point. Like, why wouldn't he say, like, I'm the owner of the Denver Broncos or the Cowboys?
I can't give you an in-universe answer. I can give you the real answer because the Simpsons writers wanted to have that Chinese
They wanted it to set it up.
But it was pretty terrible. But then, okay, so maybe...
Like, he wasn't put on the spot and had to say the first thing he thought. No. He decided to lie and then just said the first thing he saw.
It was completely pointless.
Yeah.
And if they had a really funny Chinese acrobat scene that they wanted to do, then maybe we could go, okay, they really just wanted to come up with a good way to do this.
You mean you're a good stacker? Wasn't like
I literally turned
the height of comedy?
So anyway, their lead Chinese acrobat can't make the show, and now all of a sudden everybody in the audience and the crowd is like, well, if they can't find the lead acrobat, maybe the entire Chinese communist government is
they're
flawed.
not as strong as they seem.
Yeah, exactly, and there's rumblings of revolution. So Lucy Liu packs, because as the adoption bureaucrat, she's obviously very invested in the Chinese communist government. And she goes, Homer, you have to go.
Yeah, you're an acrobat. You can do it.
You have to save China's government. And
you're not a liar, right? Because then someone won't get the baby.
Right. So Homer agrees to be an acrobat, and it doesn't really matter because all they have to do is throw him on the chair, and then they're stacking, and it's like a full 30-second scene of them stacking
one of the actual Chinese acrobats is stacking chairs that they're going to leap from onto this seesaw mechanism to launch Homer up into the chairs.
Right. So every time they're adding more chairs, Homer says like 4 or 5 different lines, and all
of them are
not funny.
Non-jokes.
The last one is literally, what was it?
Oh, you're a good stacker, he said. I know that one.
Yeah, no, he literally says, "Boy, you're a great stacker." That's the line. That's the line.
Yeah,
that's what they. That's why they set up the entire B plot. Of him being a Chinese acrobat for that, like a line like that, and 4 other lines that were just as uncreative.
Right.
It was just mind-boggling. And then the catch is, he didn't actually have to do anything. They throw him up, and he lands. He's like, "Oh, see, I did it."
He lands fine in the chairs, and then the chairs buckle under his weight because he's a fat American.
Which means
he's Homer.
They could have picked anybody from the audience. They didn't need the best China's best acrobat.
That's a great
if they threw Bart or Lisa up there, they didn't have to do anything either.
It probably would have worked.
They would have landed, and they wouldn't have been too fat, and it would have been fine, and they would have been heroes, and Selma would have gotten the baby. She probably would have got a second baby. They were like, thanks for saving the acrobat.
Take a couple more babies.
Take a couple babies. We got lots of them.
We throw in some babies for free when you help the government out.
Babies for everyone. Baby's here.
Baby's here. So Homer does the acrobatics and he breaks. And it's like, why did they need this further lie on top of the first lie?
Right.
Like the adoption agent, the threat is that the adoption agency person is going to realize Homer's not an acrobat, which was something he just said like an idiot, like the scene before.
Right.
Whereas the bigger lie is that he's not with Selma like he said he was. And then they have to have this other lie, and then that gets found out first, and then he has sex with Marge, and the person watches, and then the other lie gets broken. It's like, why are you making it so complicated?
The acrobat had nothing to do with the plot, because even though
it was a little shoehorned in, Papa.
It was shoehorned in. So even though Lucy Liu catches them in the hospital room, she could have caught them at any point.
Yeah.
It really just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, why? It was just they wanted, for some reason they were like, guys, I got this great Chinese acrobat scene, all right? It's going to be so good.
And then
there's this point where Homer says, you're a good stacker.
And then
that's gold.
And then the reason they get caught is because Homer and Marge miss each other, and they can't. And they have to make love.
Selma says, you thank you so much for doing that. Now you can have a little alone time with Marge.
But here's the thing: why do they need alone time? Like, I get that they're husband and wife, but typically, from what I get, is their sex life is not so great. Like, anytime they're in the mood, they're kind of surprised. So they can't wait a few days to go back to America and not risk their new nephew.
Exactly, and risk everything.
Yeah, it's just
also Selma.
Everything's a stretch.
Selma treating Homer to sex with his wife. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's not hers to decide.
Yeah. And then there's another line where where Marge takes care of the kids, and Lucy Liu's surprised, and she says, "Hey, that's really great that you're so good with the kids. Maybe there's hope for you yet, unmarried woman. Maybe nobody loves you." And Marge gets offended. It's like, why are you offended?
Yeah, that's actually your life.
You have a husband and kids. She doesn't know.
Yeah, was... flat.
It looked like it was going to go somewhere where more that was going to build up in Marge, where she didn't like seeing Homer with Selma, but that was literally nothing. It was just that one line, and it was stupid, and it made no sense.
Yeah, I agree. Also, after the acrobat scene, Homer has he's in the hospital and he wakes up and he has needles all over him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I guess I'm getting Chinese acupuncture. And then the doctor is like, no, there was a porcupine in here, and he shoos the porcupine out.
Yeah, he said,
what the fuck was that? Why?
Because this is the Simpsons.
Because porcupine quills look like acupuncture needles, exactly. And that's a Chinese thing.
Simpsons go to China, you have to have an acupuncture, just like they had to have a feng shui reference.
No one saw the eye roll I just did.
They didn't. I saw it. I appreciated it. But no, they needed an acupuncture joke, and that was the best they could come up with.
Yeah, if you're... Okay, I understand you want to make jokes about Chinese things, and acupuncture is a thing everyone knows. That's the best that you got. Yeah. Porcupine.
It was stupid.
Done.
Yeah, and then they make a year of the porcupine joke.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lecture that John Cleese gave a number of years ago that I watched on YouTube or something.
It wasn't a lecture.
Why am I watching so many things on YouTube?
It was a sketch show. It was called Monty Python's Flying Circus. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't TED Talks.
No, it was a lecture he gave in England at one point. I think in the '80s about creativity, which was really great. And maybe if I can dig it up, I'll tweet it out or post it on the website. Cool. Where he talks about the things you need to come up with really creative ideas, and the first two are time. You need to really stick with something a long time. And I feel like they did that in the earlier episodes. Yeah. And it was just like, porcupine, acupuncture, done.
We said this before. They did 40 rewrites, and the only jokes that made it were the jokes that got 40 laughs.
It's just you're doing the first pass. You're not taking the time to wonder, okay, let's think about acupuncture. Yeah. Where's the humor lie in that idea?
I also thought briefly maybe the joke was, hey, we're making this awful Chinese stereotype. The Chinese hospitals use needles. And then the Chinese doctor was like, no, of course not. We use modern medicine. That was a porcupine. And I thought that was them trying to say, hey, the Chinese are modern. They don't, but by making a crude, barbaric Chinese joke.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, so Selma gets the baby while Homer's in the hospital. Yeah. And the baby has already bonded with her, I guess. And then when the Madame Wu, Lucy Liu's character, realizes that they're not actually married, she takes the baby back. And it just all seemed very sudden. Mm-hmm. That it was... the baby is so attached, and Selma's very, very distraught. Yeah. And I can understand, obviously, you came all this way to get a baby, you're going to feel horrible, but it just seemed...
It was the exact same beat as when she lost Cletus's baby. She probably had the baby just a few hours more.
Yeah, but it was like a whiplash, because it was it happened so quickly, and it was like, oh no, the stakes are so high, but we didn't really see her with the baby at all to kind of understand why.
I mean, the baby says mama to show that the attachment, which, how old is his baby that's talking?
I know, yeah, it's an infant. So then they have... Homer was going to break in and kidnap the baby? Homer breaks in and steals the baby, and the way they do that is he dresses up as a Buddha statue. Yeah,
which, you got a fat, bald main character. I guess you got to do a Buddha Homer joke.
I guess.
I didn't
you don't have to, but...
It didn't bother me. It looked cute. I like the the way they animated it, I liked
Yeah,
it.
it was fine.
They move him in with a big hook,
Right.
which I did like. Like I said,
I like that too.
like seeing Homer get physically hurt. I just want to laugh about it. Like if he's just getting kicked in the face, it's kind of boring. But the hook through the nose was
the fact that he had to stay quiet and he's got a hook through his nose.
I was
and being dragged.
cringing.
Yeah.
I was like, it was hard to watch, but I was also laughing. I liked it.
I liked it, and then they did a thing that was very similar to something we talked about last week, where the two guards are like, "Oh man, he's too heavy. Let's cut him up into little pieces, and then worship that instead." And then immediately they just turn around and leave.
Yeah, so
which is very similar to the thing that happened to Lisa in last week's episode.
Like, are they gonna cut Homer up because he's too heavy? No,
Yeah,
they're gonna walk away.
They just say that, and then they're gone. I guess they're done. I guess he's in the spot he's supposed to be, which is just the middle of the hallway.
It's so weird. They do these jokes and then they just walk away.
Yeah, it's like a new modern Simpsons thing, like the old walk away joke.
What? The chicken crossed the road to get to the other side. See you later, folks.
To buy some plastic pickles. Yeah, so they steal the baby back, and then Madame Wu, the Lucy Liu character, is was like, yeah, I have to give the baby back, but the way that they do it is very problematic. Selma is in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
Where there's a plaque that's like in Tiananmen Square where nothing happened however many years ago.
Right, which is funny.
That's funny.
They would have on this spot nothing happened.
Right, and that's
it's like Area 51. You are not here.
Right. But Lucy Liu rolls in a tank.
Yeah.
And rolls up to Selma, who is standing in front of the tank with the baby.
All right, so that's a very iconic image, the Tank Man in Tiananmen Square, and so
very important
you could
cultural
see you could
image.
see why they would want to appropriate it for this episode. But it's kind of weird to make light of a situation where hundreds of people got killed.
I mean, at the same time, they're both standing up to the Chinese government, but
Right.
it's a little bit different.
I mean, maybe like in 1989 is a long way away, even from season 16, but it's not that far away. I feel like time plus tragedy equals humor, where you can kind of you can get away with some World War II jokes if like Pearl Harbor jokes. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I feel like you can kind of make.
I can think of one. The film Pearl Harbor. What a joke!
That was biting
which I've never seen. I've said it on air that I've never seen.
No, so if something awful happened a long time ago, like the Titanic, there's always jokes about.
Right. Well, but the Titanic wasn't a politically charged event. It was just people died.
My point is, if enough time has passed, maybe you can make light of a situation. If only because it is so iconic, it's hard not to mention something like that. And then how do you not mention it? In a comedy at some point.
I mean, they could have just had them passing Tiananmen Square with that plaque, like nothing happened here in 1989.
Yeah. Maybe if China ever becomes a free state.
And the fact it was the fact that she came in with a tank that was like overkill.
Yeah, it was,
now you are literally doing the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
in history.
If we're talking story, it didn't make any sense.
Right.
Why is Madame Wu driving the tank?
Yeah.
If that doesn't make any sense. The reason she's in the tank is because they're trying to bring back. It's China. They want to have iconic Chinese images. But it's just icky. It's like it's not a funny situation. Why would you do that?
This episode is banned in China, by the way. I saw
I
that
could see
on the
that.
Wikipedia page. Yeah,
because they probably have some taste in China. they didn't ban it for political reasons.
Yeah.
They're just like, what are you doing, guys?
Dragons crying rainbows. Really?
This is kind of lame.
Yeah.
So it was maybe if China ever becomes a free state and a few years pass after that, and you can look back and say, man, that was a shitty time. Let's joke about it because what else can you do?
Yeah.
Maybe if something like that, fine. But it's no. No good.
But I did like how the kind of story resolved, where Selma kind of appeals to Madame Wu. They're both like
bureaucrats.
These bureaucrats,
Bureaucrats are
rule followers. I was like, that's actually really
Yeah.
smart. Like that makes sense.
I completely agree. The idea that like the bureaucracy of a Chinese communist government and the
DMV in America
have something in common.
They could bond on that level. I thought that was a fitting end.
I actually really like that.
It was everything in the middle that was not so good. Well, actually, then there's that scene where Homer is choking a panda that he's trying to smuggle out of the country.
Yeah, man.
And then a panda comes and chokes him, and I was just like, "Did you need this?"
Yeah, I guess he deserved that rape. Maybe we should go back and give some points to the panda rape because I'll endanger you. Come on. Leave the pandas alone.
that was.
I think we should. Can we call a panda moratorium on The Simpsons for?
Yeah, really.
I'm going to say 5 seasons.
Leave the pandas alone.
Give it 5 years. Come back, revisit it, see if maybe you've learned your lesson.
I know it's just been like pandamonium. Damn it! I wish I hadn't stepped on my own.
You almost
word.
had it. You bamboozled it.
Nice. Saved it.
That's not how you use the word bamboozle.
No, it was worth it.
Because there's only
They
one,
eat bamboo.
That's why. The only pun you can make with bamboo.
Yeah, and then the family leaves. Instead of, I don't remember why they couldn't fly, but they were left on like these old Chinese fan boats, and it's just like whatever.
And
I don't care.
Bart's not there. It's a
Right,
Chinese
it was
spy dressed up as Bart. Which A, if they're leaving China, why do you need a spy? B, it's the exact same joke as Radioactive Man with the actor trying to get his green card.
Playing Millhouse. Yeah, that did nothing for me. I didn't like it.
And then Homer goes, well, good enough. It's like fine.
It's fine.
You don't like your oldest son, like
right, and it was a dragon being like,
I'm
leaving China.
Yeah. And then it ends with the credits. And
right,
during
as most episodes do.
Yeah, and during the credits, director David Silverman draws Bart real quick. And
that was cool. I had never really seen something like that in an episode.
I might be misremembering, but I did watch the show around this time. I feel like they've done that at least 2 or 3 times. I think I remember where they draw Homer, too. Okay. I don't know if it was Silverman or maybe Matt Groening or someone. Yeah. Where they draw him, and then they do the MG trick with the hair and the ear. And, I could see especially back... I mean, I guess this was not... I mean, the internet was in full force by this time.
Yeah,
But before the internet, little trivia bits like that everybody knows, like the MG in Homer, his hair and his ear, the initials of Matt Groening.
Right. I think that's apocryphal, though. I don't think Matt Groening actually does that, but it does look like it.
I mean, before the internet, or after the internet, now kind of there's these things that everybody knows already, and these little clips aren't as informational as they could have been. But I liked it. Cool. And it was just kind of cool to watch him do it so quick.
Yeah.
I liked it. If you're gonna do the credits, it's the same as the couch scenes with the guest animators. It's just something different. The show's been on so long that it's not just a show; it's a part of American culture. So
part of us all.
Yeah,
part of us all.
Part of us all. I'm sorry you had to hear that so many times.
I'll help you remember.
No, yeah. So we like that. It was a nice little cherry on top of a shit sundae.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start to rank the episode. If you missed last week, you can easily go back and check it out.
What are you doing?
We're not live TV. No, we started a new ranking system. What we're tentatively calling the Dave system for now.
Right. It's a bit of a work in progress.
It's definitely a work in progress.
We're gonna do it a little bit better today. I think.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the episode like we usually do, but we're gonna give it what we're thinking, how we're thinking we're gonna rank it. We've come up with 4 categories that we're gonna rank from 1 to 5.
Yep.
And then we each come up with our own averages. We average those, and that's basically it.
That's where the episode's
That's where it has to go on the list. We can't change it. The numbers are the numbers.
Yep.
But right now we're going to talk about what we're thinking because we might change each other's minds. We tend to do that.
Yeah. So let's talk about our first quadrant, I guess.
Yeah. So the humor cue.
The humor of the episode. It started off really strong. I think we both think it was really funny. I had a lot of laughs in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then just pretty much all of Act 2 was just not there.
I can't think of Act 3 too. I can't think of anything I laughed at in
once they got to China, it wasn't really funny.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I liked. I liked the hook in the nose of the Buddha.
Right.
I didn't mind the baby grabbing his eyes, and I did like the callback with.
Yeah, I liked that was how he found the baby in the hospital.
It's a cute baby thing that also really can't be done in real life because humans don't have the big eyes. It was a fun little visual, the sound effect of the grabbing the eyes.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything else I liked after the first act.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty low on the humor.
Yeah, all right. So out of 1 to 5, 5 is very good, or what is it? 5 loved it. 5
is loved it, 1 is hated it.
Hated it. So a little in living color reference for you there. So 2.5 would be average.
Yeah.
That's how I've been doing it.
Yeah,
so I would say this is below average. I would give this a 1.5.
I would probably I might skew.
Oh, you know what? Because I forgot, the first scenes were really good, the first act.
Yeah, I might skew a little bit higher, just go 2. Because I didn't like it overall, but there were some high points.
I don't know. I'd almost bump it up to 2.5 because that first act was so good. But I'll say 2.
We did like Robert Wagner.
2.5. Robert Wagner.
All right, 2.5.
I mean, we're just this.
It got the Wagner bump.
We're not locking it in right now. We're just kind of thinking out loud here. So what's our second cue? Or the quadrant?
Our second is the integrity of the episode. Like, did this break reality of the show? Was everyone really in keeping with their characters?
I think. I mean,
on the whole, I think people were. Like Homer didn't like Selma. Selma didn't like Homer.
Yeah, Homer's Chinese acrobat line wasn't out of character. It's just kind of stupid writing.
Yeah. Well, does that factor into this quadrant?
And then, all right. Well, here's the thing we can talk about is we talk about whether this quadrant is Oh, no. Yeah, this is the integrity one, right?
Yeah.
So we
this
talk
is-
about whether this broke the show or not. This is a very monumental event. They're adding a new character. They're giving Selma a daughter. I liked it. I think it was a great chance. I think The
liked it
Simpsons
too.
should do more stuff like that these days. Switch it up a little. It's season 26.
Yeah.
I liked it. I would give it at least a 2.5.
I'd probably go 3.
Okay. Yeah, because you know what, Ling is a good addition. And it was a really, like we said, it was a spirituals episode of so much choice.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that the Chinese stuff kind of just
Fell
sank
flat
it.
and, yeah.
But the first act was really great emotional stuff. Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we got the visual aspect of the episode. How did it look? How was it directed? On the whole, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we didn't like the dragon stuff on a humor level,
they looked nice. The crying rainbows was visually cool. I didn't love it, but
that's all I can really think about. That nothing stood out for me.
yeah, I mean, I personally liked the kung fu fight,
Oh yeah, you did.
so
Yeah,
I might
right.
bump it up a little higher because of that.
I mean, I would say 2.5. Do you think it should be a 3?
I was thinking 3, possibly 3.5.
I'm not going that high. I'm thinking 2.5 or 3. I'll leave it. I'll think about it before we rank it.
Okay.
And finally, our last quadrant,
The originality.
originality. Okay. Well, it's a Simpson goes to. So right there, you're not gonna
That's
have a
true.
5.
That's funny. I was actually going to say it's pretty high because it changes the show. It adds a character, like you said, and
Yeah.
it's an important episode with dealing with
And it's-
menopause, dealing with a character who's seldom seen.
Yeah, it's
Selma.
a sequel to Selma's Change.
Yeah,
It's not
Selma's
a
Choice.
remake of it.
Yeah.
Selma's Choice.
Yeah.
I got distracted because you said we seldom do Selma. And
Yeah, right.
I like that. But
I get a point for originality. One
you
wee
get
point for Dan.
you get a wee point. 1,000 wee bucks.
Oh man, they're just like regular bucks, but more fun.
We do not accept wee bucks. No, so I would give it at least a 3, maybe more.
Yeah, I'll probably go a 3, maybe.
It is Simpsons Goes to China.
Yeah, I'll know. It is Simpsons Go to China.
And then they
which is
didn't do
not-
anything with it. They did
2.5,
the
3,
acrobat.
I'd
I'd
say.
say 3.
Oh, you're curing me with acupuncture. No, porcupine snuck in while you were asleep. Go on, shoo, come back and you're a porcupine, which is never.
All right, so we just went off air for a minute and we put in our rankings and we averaged it out. And again, this is a work in progress. Actually, we kind of liked the way we didn't plan on doing it that way. Where we said we were just going to talk about what we were thinking, but we pretty much locked in our scores as we were talking to
pretty
each
much.
other.
Yeah.
I think maybe we'll just do that from now, at least for next week, and see if we tweak it a little bit more that week.
Yeah, work in progress. But
Yeah, it'll take a
idea,
while.
The idea was we were going to have so many episodes and we didn't want to just boringly
Exactly.
be like, "Ooh,
We could
this
still
one."
get away with going with our gut for now, but it's
Yeah.
going to become more of an issue as we go down the line.
Yep.
Next week is our 20th episode, which is kind of
man.
mind-blowing. Yeah.
Our 20th episodery.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah, it looks like, actually, we both gave it the same scores, it looks like. Our both averages are 2.625. Did you give it the same what I gave it? I gave it a 2 in humor, a 3 in integrity, a 2.5 in visual, and a 3 in originality. Is that what you did?
No, I gave it a 2.5 in humor, a 2.5 in integrity, a 3.5 visual,
Oh, wow.
and a 2 for originality.
So our numbers are completely different, but our averages are exactly the same. That's funny.
That's
So
fascinating.
it's a 2.625. So where's that put it on the list?
That puts it just below Bart Mangled Banner. So this is a worse episode than Bart Mangled Banner, but a better episode than Kill Gill.
This is where I think we're struggling with this a little on an emotional level because
Yeah.
we can't always go by our gut because we don't remember the episodes.
Right.
My instinct is this episode is not better than that '90s show or even Homer versus Disney or Kill Gill. Definitely Kill Gill, but. I guess it's good that we're going to have these numbers because I'm probably just not remembering how much. Like, you go easier on episodes as time goes by because you just forget how bad they were.
When I think about that 90s show, we're kind of remembering the things we liked. Like, I remember the Weird
Right,
Al part,
exactly.
and I don't really remember a lot of the other parts.
Right, because
It's not a great episode.
As
It's
much
not
as
terrible,
I
but...
loved the first act of this episode, I loved it.
Yeah.
But the second and third act were so pointless and useless. So I'm like, why is it so high up on our list? But now that I think about it, they're all useless. So the one concern I have
This
is
whole
that
show is useless.
The one concern I have is that it's 2.6. 2.5 by nature of our 1 to 5 scale is average, and I would say this is below average. But numerically, it seems to be above average. But again, it is our.
But I mean, it's not going to be. We're not going to get any 5s.
I know. I don't. And again, we're talking about a show. We're goofing around. We're doing Dalek voices.
Yeah.
This isn't hard science.
Did someone refer to me?
No, go away.
Okay, I will go away.
Why did he become an old woman?
I don't know. I don't know.
Now he's an old prospector. You were literally morphing before my eye. I feel like one day...
Did someone call for Ralph the dog?
This is dark, but if we ever get like Alzheimer's or something, our grandchildren are going to be like, the fuck are you talking about? We're just going to be like, The Simpsons was the greatest show ever, but then it wasn't.
Don't exterminate me. I want to live.
Grandpa, please. Put your pants back on.
Oh, Lord.
So I guess that's it for this week.
I think that's a good sign. We need to end it.
Yeah, we got it between Bart Mangled Banner and Mo Letter Blues, right?
No, it's between Bart Mangled Banner and Kill Gil.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there it is. You can check it out on our website. There's also a comment section where you feel free to just go, this is wrong, that shouldn't be there, or whatever.
All right, so I think that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. Mm-hmm. If you have an episode you want to suggest, you can do that in a number of places. We're all over this internet. I don't know if you've heard about this internet thing, but Podcast is all over it. For example, we are we have an internet page.
Did you want me to?
Did
you want me? I'm sorry, I zoned out there. Did you want rapport with me? Did you want? Well, what websites are we on, Dad?
I don't know what I wanted.
I heard we're on Facebook.
We are on Facebook.
I heard we're on Twitter.
We are on Twitter.
I heard
Wait,
we're on
you should wait
Stitcher.
for me to say where we are. Yeah, no, we're on Twitter. We're at Worst Episode Pod on Facebook or facebook.com/WePodcast. WorstEpisodePod@gmail.com and WePodcast.com. Weepodcast.com. If you go to that website, we beg you to click our Amazon links. It helps us fund the show, keep everything free, keep our podcast hosting.
You're not donating any money. If you buy something on Amazon and you do it through our website, we get a little cut.
We're making no profit, basically, at all. In fact, we're quite...
Whatever less than profit is.
What's the bad one? In the red, right?
Yeah.
We're the bad one. But anyway, you can do all those things and follow us. We hope that you do. I tweet out some tweets.
Tweet out the tweets.
I tweet out the tweets. We Facebook the books. And
we live journal the live journals.
Yep, we're all over that Tumblr. Check us out on iTunes. Please leave positive reviews or just any review, really. Not a negative review, but
don't put as much thought into it as we do with our new number system. Just give us a 5.
Just give us that old 5. And I think that's it. If you're in the Brooklyn area, you can come check out Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. That is at Berry Park in Brooklyn. It's the first Thursday of every month. I host that with Dan Ozzie, friend of the show, who's going to be back on the show somewhat soon. Cool. And also, that's for Brooklyn, and we're having Diorama Rama in March, which is going to be really exciting.
There's a chance I'll be making a diorama, so if you guys want to check it out.
Very nice.
I thought about making a little model Wii Studios, and then I thought that was kind of narcissistic, and I kind
of like it.
Yeah, I was thinking of using like maybe a He-Man for me, and like maybe for you, just a
Orko, also from He-Man, the little wizard guy. Yeah. At least I have magic powers. We also have trivia. There's trivia nights in other cities, Toronto, Chicago. Just Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. You can find more information about that. Next week, we're going to have another episode for you, believe it or not.
Yeah, but before we talk about next week, we completely forgot. The reason we did this week was because of Chinese New Year.
Oh, yeah.
Which celebrates Chinese culture. So Happy New Year, guys. I forget what animal the year is.
Not the year of the porcupine, which was
not the year of the porcupine.
Lame gag.
That's not my year, the year of the rat.
Yeah.
But happy Chinese New Year, everybody.
Yeah. Happy Chinese New Year.
So that's why we picked this episode. We picked this next episode pretty much at random.
Pretty much. It was suggested by someone. We'll give them credit next week when we do it. It's Season 13's Gump Roast.
Okay. I'm assuming that's Forrest Gump.
It is. And it's...
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it next week. Yeah. Because this episode is over. And we're going to cut all this.
Sure, you may experience mood swings, loss of desire, and private dryness. But don't worry, you can still do everything that you did before.
Everything? Including having children?
Ma'am, we're trying to make a video here.